I'm Sandy at Crochet Cabana. I'm going to be talking about filet crochet today. I just want to do a little introduction so you can see what I look like. I'll show you first of all, I created my own pattern. I used Microsoft Word and I made a table and I just put X's where I wanted my pattern to be. You can do this either way. Your X's can make your pattern, or your X's, your solid blocks can make your pattern. I'm using a cake of green red heart yarn, and I'm going to use an Inex hook here, an H hook, and I have 2 markers with which I'm going to mark my rows as I do them. And I have my paper and pen that I'm going to figure out my stitch count and of course my pattern. For sewing in my ends, I have some needles, a brand new pack. This is a number 16 Susan Bates, but you can use any kind you want. I prefer the number 16, but you might like something else. And that's the introduction, and I'm going to be moving the camera so that I can get a close-up of what I'm doing, and I'm going to be showing you what I know at this point about filet crochet. Here's my chart. Actually, it's 2 pages. 20. Let's see, we have 2012 for 2012, but we always start our filet piece at the bottom. So, and I'm going to make this a vertical stripe. So we have. I'm going to have 2 rows, 2 solid rows here, 2 solid mesh here, and 2 solid mesh here, and then this will be my pattern. And I'm going to have 2 rows here of solid mesh to begin. Now first off, I need to know how many stitches to make my foundation chain. So I've gone ahead and figured it here. If I'm doing a 3 double crochet mesh, if your first mesh or block is solid, which mine will be, you multiply your total rows, which is 9, times 2, which is 18, plus 3, which is 21. Why? Because you have here, let's get a little closer. Okay, I have, say I have 2 blocks here. This block is double crochet, double crochet, double crochet. This block is double crochet, double crochet, double crochet. But you notice between the 2 blocks, we have a stitch. This stitch is part of this block, and it's part of this block. So we can't count it twice. If we did 3 times 2, that would not give us the right number, because you would be counting this stitch twice. So we do our total. Say if I wanted to know how many stitches I needed for just 2 blocks, I would do 2 times 2, which would be 4, plus 1, which is my center block. So because I'll have 2 here, 2 here, and then I have my center. And the same would be true of all the solids. As you go along, you're going to have some rows that are going to have some solids, some are going to have open blocks, which is going to be my pattern. But for our first row, we want to do 9 times 2, just like we did here. But then instead of 1, we need to have our beginning chain 3 for our first stitch. So we're going to do 9 times 2 plus 3. Now if this was a solid mesh, we would also need to account for a chain on our first row. So we would do 9 times 2 plus 4, which would be 22. That's if you have an open mesh. So I know that's a little confusing, but what we have in a solid mesh which is 3 double crochets. We have a open mesh, which is also 3 stitches, but you would have a double crochet, and you'd have a chain 1 in the middle of that. And this would be your open mesh, and this would be your solid mesh. Okay? You can read that. Okay, so we're going to chain, as we said here, we're going to chain 21, and then we're going to make 1 row of double crochet, just straight double crochet. Actually, we're going to make 2 rows of straight double crochet, because that's going to be our first 2 rows of our pattern. First, I'm going to make my slip knot. I'm going to wrap my thread of my yarn around my fingers, make a loop, drop my beginning thread here, and then insert my hook behind that loop and pull it up. There's different ways that you can make a slip knot. That's just the way that I choose to do it. Then I'm going to chain 21, we said. So yarn over and pull through. Yarn over and pull through until you get to 21. Yarn over and pull through. That's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. And make sure that my yarn is coming freely from my cake there. Now some people do like to use a hook 1 size larger for their foundation chain, and sometimes I do that, sometimes I don't. Just to keep it simple here, I did not do it. So now I need to make my double crochets. I'm going to yarn over. I'm going to count 4. I like to use the back hump. See the stitch there? Here's your chain, and on the back is this little hump. You can see it. That's where I make my stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yarn over, insert my hook, make my double crochet. Yarn over, make my double crochet. This tutorial assumes that you know how to make chains and double crochets. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. What we're talking about is the filet. So if you don't know how to do the basic stitches, I have other videos that show you that, or you can just follow me along with me and watch me do it, and you can learn that way. See, if I'd have used a larger hook, it wouldn't be so hard to get into this stitch. This is Red Heart yarn, and as you know, if you work with Red Heart yarn, it's a little stiff to work with. After it's washed, it's going to be much better. This hook is a little bit shorter than the hook I usually use. So it's a little awkward. I'm kind of trying to go a little slow so that you can see what I'm doing. Now I'm at my last stitch. Go in there. Now I chained 21. So we should have 19 stitches, because you always have 2 less than the foundation chain and double crochet if you go into the 4 chain from the hook, of course. So we have 1, your first chain counts as a stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So I have 19. Now I'm going to chain up. You can use 2 or 3, whatever brings you up to the height that you need it to be. If this first block would be an open block, then I would want to chain 3 or 4, because that would bring you'd have to skip 1, because remember, an open block is a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. So let's pretend that this was an open block, which it's not. We're going to have closed blocks all along the side. So say I would chain up 4, then I'd turn, and I would skip this one right under the stitch, skip the next one, and go into the 3rd stitch, and that gives me an open block. And that would be what you do if you had an open block there, but we don't. We have a closed block. So you can do 2 or 3. I generally do 2, but you can do 3 if you need to. And I'm just going to you always skip, in double crochet, you always skip that first stitch. You go into the next stitch, and I'm just going to make double crochets all along this row. Now, I'm going to take my chart also, and I've got to remember which row I'm on so that I won't get messed up and mess up my pattern. I don't want to find that out when I'm halfway through. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark each row with a different color marker. And as I showed you, I have my pink and my green markers. So I'm going to mark each row so that I remember where I'm at. Take my green, let's say, and mark my first row. Then I'm going to take my pink and mark the second row, which I'm doing now. Of course, I would mark it when I'm finished it, but I'm almost finished. Here's one thing to notice about filet. Since we did 1 row, then we chained up and we turned, so we're going back in the opposite direction. In filet, your row 1, your odd rows, that's why I have them separated here. You see how I have 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, that's my odds, and I have my 2, 4, 6, 8 here on this side. Your odd rows are going to be worked right to left. Your even rows are going to be worked left to right because you've turned. So we did our foundation. Your little foundation strand, your beginning strand, is always going to be here at the bottom left. So if you get confused and you don't remember where you are, that's how you tell.